So, hello, I'm Alesja, currently in Finland, researching blockchain technologies and their societal impact, actually. So, don't ask me about don't ask me about AI, because this is just a part of what I do after work. And what I was doing recently is writing a bit of research on late socialism visual culture. Because like when I'm in Finland, I'm trying to reconnect with my Soviet past. It suddenly becomes much more attractive. So I've been doing a little work on Soviet films and TV series, and there's quite a lot of it. There's quite a lot of discover there. And today we will meet the Marvin counterpart and probably some kind of an analogy, but in the most popular TV series for children, this is the most popular, the most famous robot from Soviet cinema, so to say, from Soviet TV. He has achieved a cult status and mimetic status, and people still remember him. It's a huge influence, and this is why we will be talking about it. Speaking of theoretical ground, it would fit into science fiction studies, and we will have a little bit more of it later. So now we just briefly mention what there are usually two ways to see how science fiction influences innovations and how it probably steers them. So one way to see it is that science fiction film and inspires future innovations. It brings a lot of ideas to the table, and those ideas can be explored later in research and development. And the other way is projection of societal anxieties, and this is what I'm interested in, as we can almost always read science fiction films and literature as fictional work about our present. There is always present reflected in those films, and sometimes there are a lot of symptoms coming up that tell a little bit, that feel a little bit more about our present and about our society that we ourselves would want to. To illustrate this, these are two stills from a cult Soviet children cartoon, which is called The Mystery of the Third Planet. A fun thing is that it takes place in the same universe, so to say, than the same as robot Verter, whom we will meet a little later. So it's the same series of science fiction books for children adapted into a cartoon, into an animation film this time. So they have some inspirational ideas, such as a mirror that shows you the past, and it's described in the science fictional way as like little layers of this mirror fading out one after another until like what was there before reveals itself. So the girl, this is a girl, she's looking at her father's friend who looked into that mirror like 5 minutes ago. And this is a cool concept. These are some ideas which could be actually explored and probably used to develop and design some interesting artifacts. And the second still is projection of societal anxiety. So almost similar technologies are represented in this small mirrored turtle, which is spying on characters. So it records video and audio of everything that is happening on the spaceship. And it is actually, okay, it's 1981, so it was rather cool for that time. And the books are they're even older. They come from even previous times, so they're kind of even more interesting in terms of inspiration as well. But also this is like the anxiety of always being watched by someone who is in our case the authorities, but it's still a bell with us today. So AI in the 80s, we will talk a little bit more about it later. But, one of the most common readings is that they represent the fear, like the society is afraid of the same military complex that actually is standing behind its safety, so to say, international safety. And of course, we can we can look at it from the political angle, and we won't do it right now. But yes, there's a lot of science fiction studies exploring the topic of the Cold War and how it was reflected in a lot of those absolutely fantastic narratives. And here we see the Terminator, of course, and the Soviet counterpart here is also from the same universe. That's actually amazing that a series of children's books was reproduced in a number of very different adaptations. And this adaptation is about an army of old, obsolete battle robots who come from the sea. They were like at the bottom of the sea, and this is why they are rusty and dangerous and absolutely crazy. And they come out of the sea, of course, to start another war. And then our protagonists, who are children and teenagers, trying to stop them. And this is also this weird character from traditional Russian folklore, from the traditional Russian fairy tale. It's a Baba Yaga, and she's playing a card. She's playing a card game with one of those battle robots, who also presents like this dark side of the military complex of the USSR's own military complex. So has a lot of dark secrets buried at the bottom of the. And we could talk about this movie for quite a long time, about this book that was adapted into this film, but we won't, because we have our hero whom we meet. Just one more slide, because probably I need to make this remark that development of artificial intelligence in the USSR was actually pretty strong. It was going pretty strong. There are some sources you can find, you can read, unfortunately not so much in English. However, it was also part of the same military complex. It was coming from a very different perspective. It started rather early, so it was like going on for all the history of the Soviet Union. And it incorporated a very different set of assumptions, how, for example, a battle AI should work. Unfortunately, I'm not expert, but I could, like, if you message me, I will send you like a teacher's recommendation on this amazing topic. For instance, that a battle AI, a military AI, or developed in the Soviet Union would not still like be okay with the option of destroying not only the enemy but themselves as well. So it was kind of a different ethical framework to like design the whole set of decisions and how it would, values would be in the bottom, which values would be in the ground for making those decisions. So this was actually, there was a lot of literature, quite a lot of theoretical work, some really strong mathematical work, and unfortunately it was very much slowed down by the same planned economy which was supposed to use it, because it just did not work that way. So there were quite a lot of movies and TV shows about robots, artificial intelligence in the USSR. Of course, the most famous one would be the Visitor from the Future. I'm skipping a few slides, so I'm sorry. So the Visitor from the Future was a TV series. There were 5 films, and they were about a Soviet family. The protagonist is a boy who suddenly travels 100 years ahead to the future, and he meets a funny but friendly robot who is very unhappy about his job. I think you might already see the similarity. So this is it is in the right half of the slide right now, and this boy travels around the future and he meets a girl and they battle cosmic pirates. Actually they battle the same guy who you saw on this picture, this fat guy, but he looks differently in the TV adaptation, of course. So they save the world, they become friends, and friendship lasts forever. And this is actually a very sweet story, probably full with references which no one will recognize outside of the Soviet context, unfortunately. So this TV series created in the times of the late socialism, so it was already being very vague about its political message, because you realize that everything had a very straightforward political message in the Soviet art for all the time being. I probably will go back to this slide. This is one of the most interesting books on Soviet culture written by Alexei Yurchak. It was published first in Russian and in English, and he explores this way of how the system was kind of deconstructed from the inside, but no one really realized what was happening. So suddenly it collapsed, and no one expected it, and yet it was expected by the change in the way of seeing the world. It was there were a lot of predictors, especially in popular culture and in the way people communicated. So the same ideological structures, children, TV and cinema was very ideological. They were starting to develop into more interesting, like they were starting to develop some form of creativity and, as Yurchak says, unanticipated meanings in the context of strictly formulaic ideological forms. So it was no more about happy future. Okay, if you are familiar with the current left discourse, you probably know about fully automated space communism, and this TV is basically about that fully automated space communism in the future, and yet its tagline and it is the chorus from the song that everybody who was born in the Soviet Union instantly recognizes, and this song is about the future. Children sing it. Children choir sings it in the film, and it's like in the back head of everyone who has spent at least some time in the Soviet Union. And its chorus and its tagline is, "Dear, beautiful, faraway future, please don't be cruel to me." And it sits in your subconsciousness, and then you start reflecting, why should the future, why would the future, the great, beautiful Soviet future, communism, everybody is happy, everything is automated, why would this future be cruel to me? And why children sing this line to me? What's happening? So it's kind of the culture of late socialism was full of such little subversions that changed the way how individuals would look at it and how the society would see it at large. Okay, and trying to get to the AI in this TV series. There's quite a lot of robotic voices. Before we come to our darling robot Verter, there are quite a lot of robotic voices. So Kolya, this spider who goes to the future, he acts with a lot of AI because everything is automated. And his first reaction is trust. He trusts the voices. And he's curious, what's going on? He wants to fly to the moon. He comes to the robotic ticket seller at the airport, at the Cosmodrome, and asks, I want to fly to the moon. And this assistant says, it's impossible, like, I'm sorry, the spaceship just left. And he's, but I really want to go to the moon. And then he's trying to beg, and then he's trying to cheat, and then he like lies to get the ticket to the or elsewhere or wherever. So his interaction with AI in this film is already projected as a mixture of this trust, curiosity, and he's also trying to play it. He's always trying to cheat. It's same as with his first robotic friend, who is Robert Verter. He's in the right here. So Robert Verter, he's named after the famous character from great German literature. Yes, that Verter who committed suicide because the girl didn't love him back. And there's some interplay with this topic, but it's not really, it's kind of, Robert Verter is supposed to love someone, and he loves a co-worker romantically. He writes poems about her. So to him, it's like when he's asked about it, he says, I pray for her. Like it's something that is, it is a part of his calling in his life. It is a part of his purpose in his life to write beautiful poems for this beautiful girl. He does not actually like do anything. He's kind of positioned as kind of sexual queer character who just expresses himself as a poet. And he needs to love someone, he needs a muse. And this is his purpose. So this is a very peculiar case of artificial intelligence in media, which also who also possesses a very high level of emotional intelligence. And it's spoken, it's outspoken, it's presented in very literal ways. So he has both uniquely high intelligence as in rational intelligence, and he also possesses a very high level of emotional intelligence. And of course, he suffers. And why does he suffer? He suffers because he hates his job and he works as a janitor. So when we compare the TV series, like when we compare Visitor to the Future and the first adaptation of Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, we get introduced to those robots in an almost identical way. It happens like at the same part, at the same moment in time. In the first series, in both cases. So the character, the protagonist, arrive to this world, this futuristic world, and there are some people, and there is this super smart robot whose job is to Verter is a janitor, Marvin is a companion. So he is supposed to take guests up to the deck, and he's very unhappy about it. And his intelligence is wasted on a very simple job that anyone can do. And Robert Verter is doing absolutely the same thing. He also speaks to himself. He expresses himself. He's very chatty, and they basically repeat the same message. They are not happy because their job does not make sense. They are too qualified for their jobs. What does it tell us about the society? This is the angle I would prefer to take here because there's so much to unwrap. I suggest that this is the projection of the same anxiety as in robot will take our jobs. Only in this case, both of them are highly intelligent and highly emotionally developed. And they both dream of a different job. Robert Verter wants to be a professional poet, okay. And there are some speculations that he used to be a battle robot, like always. And he wants he wants this career and he has to do like absolutely mundane tasks. But who writes? Okay, probably humans do their jobs. It's like when we try to uncover it inside the fictional world about which we are speaking, probably we don't see those robots who took jobs from our protagonist robots. But when we try to see it as a part of like more general trend, what are they afraid of? Why are they unhappy? They're unhappy because they have a purpose in their lives, and this purpose is professional, somehow connect abilities into their professional calling, and they have it. They cannot have it, everything is automated, someone else is writing beautiful poems for beautiful girls, someone else is finding the answer to the ultimate question of the universe, and they are left behind, just being like companions to the humans whom they do not really, like, whom they respect, but not really. And this is this is one way to read such text. Another way where we could go, like this anxiety was present in Soviet science fiction. It was present on many levels. I think one of the first collections of science fiction for teenagers was it was called Unemployed Robot, which was an alternative translation of just one short story by Harry Harrison, and probably not his best story, but that was how it was. So every schoolboy or schoolgirl, if she was into science fiction, would have this collection of science fiction with this unhappy, unemployed robot on the cover. It was in every home library, like city, a home library of an urban dweller in the Soviet Union. And this is still from, what you see now is this from another Soviet cartoon, which is called The Boy Who Does Not Want. It's a very loose translation because it sounds very differently. In Russian is a very different language, but okay. So it's the story of a boy who did not want to do anything. And he also comes to the future. He finds himself in the future, and no one does anything in the future. Robots do everything. And then when we read it from our today's position, we realize that this is actually a story very similar to Matrix, if you think about it. But probably we will not overthink it as for now. This is where we are. Like, let's conclude with this answer to that ultimate question, which was in the abstract of my presentation. And I'm ready to talk about the dark side of the Soviet popular culture in spare time, or maybe talk about blockchain and its societal impact in my working time. And it was a pleasure, and thank you very much. Now I will go back to the chat. Yes, okay. Okay,
Thank you very much.